Farlost, created by John Miro.
53. Lou caught Beecham with a grunt. He straightened, one hand against the wall of the long corridor, and his helmet bobbed as he nodded his thanks inside it. "How much farther?" he panted, shoulders heaving. "Come on, let's go," Travis shouted ahead. Lou thumped Beecham's arm. "We'll get there when we get there." "Do I have to turn this spaceship around, Beecham?" "Don't let the lights die." All three of them jerked to a stop, looking around. There was no one else in the corridor. "Did that just happen?" Beecham squeaked. "You heard it too, right? The thing about the lights?" Travis was turning around in a circle. "I heard it, but I don't see any." Daisy's voice, calm and measured, soothed Lou's ear. "I detect no life signs in your vicinity." Lou pushed on Beecham's back. "We keep moving. We do what we said." The scientist straightened, but not without a weary groan. "When do you think the universe will get tired of messing with us?" She patted the back of his spacesuit. "You can do this, right? Break down 12 years of work making force fields and repurpose it to make stabby fields." Beecham nodded. "In the bag. 10 minutes tops, especially with Daisy checking my math." He took a deep, shuddering breath. "If I don't die first." She grinned a little and thumped the back of his left shoulder, the one that wasn't bleeding, to reassure him and get him moving down the corridor towards the Betty's 4 section. "We're still here, Beecham." "Some of us are," Beecham said quietly over the channel, but relented and kept walking. Lou thought about that. Between the gut punch of losing HHL 6's first commander and her mentor, Ed Dwyer, to the insanity of Burkov, she'd lost dozens of crew already. Not to mention being stranded with the survivors in another solar system, the location of which 6's onboard computers hadn't cracked. At least they hadn't cracked it before her resident genius had uploaded a computer virus written by an alien plant to take control of her ship and help it plan a suicidal high-speed docking maneuver with its own ship, all to escape the Thorn, a giant, spiky planetoid that was manipulating its own gravity to catch and digest them. Busy couple of days, Lou thought, but here they were, mostly still alive and on their way out of the clutches of the Thorn, with the help of some transplanted humans from 100 years ago. And the aliens, Lou thought, following Beecham through the dimly lit corridor. Can't forget the aliens. She wondered if Stan Rennick and Rose Okoro, their bodies now coated in metal, all metabolic functions suspended by some alien tech she still couldn't wrap her mind around, would be added to the list of the stranded or the dead when they had time to thaw them out or reboot them or whatever. "How are we doing with the last emitter short round?" she heard Captain Travis ask on the comm line. "It's not the prettiest install I've ever done," came the tired but satisfied voice of Steve Bostetter, the cargo specialist helping Kyle Nishioka, pilot of the EVA craft Short Round, mount Beecham's last force field emitter on the Betty's side. "But Beecham's toys are all now in place." "Good work, crew," Montaigne called out. "Now get yourself inside the Betty's cargo bay before company arrives." "Negative, Commander." It was Kyle Nishioka's voice now, cool and emotionless. "Daisy piped us video of Rodriguez taking on the boomer, Commander. Steve and I are ready to dish out more of the same if the emitters don't keep them out. Where do you need us?" Travis stopped ahead and pounded a small wall panel. A chunk of ceiling began to lower to the corridor grating. Travis bounded up the flat ramp before it even got to the floor. "What have you got out there for punch?" Travis asked on the line. "What passes for weapons?" Bostetter came back. "My mech suit's got the same arms, plasma welder, and laser as Rodriguez. I, also brought some high-temp plastic. Use enough and it burns through anything." "Anything where we're from," Pilot Nishioka amended. "I've got the same complement, including my own stock of explosives." Travis chuckled on the line, and Lou spoke up. "We were worried about cutting 6 loose from Betty if our partnership went south. Sorry, Captain." "Don't ever apologize for being prepared," Travis chuckled. "This is Farlost." Lou had seen the footage of the boomer attack on the tram. Dina had caught the aliens by surprise with her attack. She wasn't sure the next wave would let her crew get close enough to do the same damage with their mechanized suits and EVA craft, but there were no guarantees Beecham's modifications would work as planned. Her chest ached as she made the cold calculation, but she gave the order. "Find a perch midship, gentlemen. If any of those things get through, either take them on where they land, or take Captain Travis's orders if he gives them." Bostetter and Nishioka called out acknowledgments, and the line chimed again as they signed off. "Einstein, my back!" Beecham's breath was getting ragged again in Lou's ears. "How about we turn off the gravity for a while, huh?" Lou pushed on his suit to help him up the ramp, biting her tongue to stifle the sympathetic groan she'd been about to let loose. "Sorry, artificial gravity doesn't work that way." Travis was there with an arm to help each of them up the last hump, and into a wide, dimly lit space. "It takes time to build up or dissipate." Lou took his hand next and was grateful for his help clearing the ramp. She stretched out her back, looking around to get her bearings, and gasped. Lou's mouth went dry, halfway through an attempt at a whistle. Space surrounded them. Lou's stomach twitched as she turned slowly and took in the unobstructed view of space, around and above them. Stars, ships, thorn, and glittering remains. She looked toward the Betty's fore section and saw the long line of cylinders that made up HHL-6 stretch ahead. Wonder, terror, too much of everything. Holy shh! Beecham's awe-filled voice died away. She heard the hiss of air and looked over to see Travis pulling his helmet off and latching it to the side of his suit. Observation deck. A little home improvement project of Gruber's. Pretty old-school construction, actually. It's a distant cousin of glass with a thin coating of a dragon spinal fluid that works pretty amazingly as an insulating gel. Then another layer inside the dome wired for data input and display. Travis walked away from the ramp toward infinity, and Lou had to fight not to reach out and grab him. Lou laughed. It was a measure of how much Crazy was gridlocked in today that she wasn't pushing him to explain the bit about dragons and spines. She cracked her own helmet and Beecham followed suit, fingers tugging frantically. They both exhaled with relief. God, but she was tired of living in this suit. Travis kept walking towards the sea of black. 20 feet away, then 30, and then space shimmered just ahead, becoming a mirror of him. He slowed down, and the shimmer faded. Travis reached out and touched the air. 5 little points of light appeared where his fingers rested against what Lou's mind worked out was the edges of the dome-shaped enclosure. She followed, half waiting to slam into whatever was holding the air in, half stunned by the immense, harsh beauty around her. Her own image appeared a few steps away. Nice way to avoid walking into walls, Lou supposed. That minor embarrassment forgotten, she stared around again and let her jaw fully drop. Travis turned back to Beecham and Lou, his left hand tugging at the metal collar of his suit. "Daisy, paint everything within a 250K. Small circles appeared all around. Lou could pick out the tram and boomer ships close behind. She craned her head until she could see the ancient wreck among the sickly, twisted spikes of the thorn. Definitely not Kansas, she murmured quietly, not for the first time that day. Back near the ramp, Beecham gurgled. "I'm just gonna," he said, and he sunk to his knees. "Hold on to your lunch," Travis growled. Beecham nodded. "Daisy," he said, "give him something else to think about." Small hollows coalesced in the air around Beecham's head, full of equations and metrics. Beecham's eyes focused on those instead of the heavens, and Lou watched the lines of discomfort on his white face ease. A chime, and then a familiar, cocky voice was amplified into the room. "Patel and Barrowman here, Commander. We're sitting on 6, all ready for party crashers, with a big old bag of party tricks. Ready to crack some skulls, Commander." These angry words sounded strange in Barrowman's calm voice. "Can't let Dina have all the fun." "Thank you, gentlemen," Lou said through her suddenly tight throat. "Carry on." Another chime, and the 2 voices were gone from the line. Lou struggled to keep her focus. She felt with certainty that things were finally nearing a tipping point. Travis walked past, tapped 2 fingers on the window, and drew them apart, exploding a square several feet wide. He focused in on a silver blur, and the massive spaceship appeared. The Eternal, he muttered. A bit hungrily, Lou thought. Captain, Daisy's voice called out, almost chiding, sounding as if whatever you called a supercomputer baked in chlorophyll, stood just behind him. Lou saw another image explode out of nothingness. The new window, Daisy's doing, she guessed, slid over the gleaming ancient ship below with a blurry pixelated chip tagged with a slowly rotating gold coin beside it. There was a sun on the coin. Travis threw his hands up. What do you want me to do, get out and push? No, Captain, Daisy said again. Lou would have sworn the machine voice sounded apologetic. Beecham started giggling. Daisy, Daisy, he began to sing. She watched his face, relieved to see him buried in the numbers. A little manic, maybe, but still his high-functioning, borderline antisocial self. Dr. Beecham and I have completed the field configuration, the computer voice called. Lou and Travis looked at each other. That wasn't even 2 minutes, Beecham, she said. I know, the physicist said, excited. I need me a Daisy 24/7. And you're sure it will work? Travis asked. No doubt. Redesigning the emitter pattern was just running numbers to build spatial coordinates, Beecham said, turning his head a little as feet pounded their way up the ramp. The hard part's getting the bad guys to fly in the right place at the right time. I believe you, Stewart, Lou said, but please, run it again. Beecham nodded wordlessly and returned to the halo of holograms wreathing his head. Ron Taggart and Arnel Villanueva staggered into the observation room, sharing one end of a stretcher between them. On it were Stan and Rose, still frozen together in silver. Engineer Gruber cleared the ramp, holding the rear of the stretcher. That power relay's not going to fix itself, Ben, Travis said, his voice quiet and sad. Luke could guess a lot of reasons for that. Ordering Ben back to engineering, to do his damnedest to get the Betty's broken power relay back to work siphoning energy from HHL-6's reactors, meant putting him in the first place the oncoming boarding party would try and seize. I got something to say first. Well, and then I gotta go harpoon us a tram and save our crew, but after that I'll get the engines online and save all our asses. Gruber stayed near the ramp, eyes near but not on his captain. Like I said, I got something to say, and I needed some stuff that goes bang from the armory anyways, to greet anything stupid enough to try and hurt my engines. He shuffled his feet. Lou saw his eyes were wet. Also, I got something to say. His voice died out. Ben, Travis started, but his engineer cut him off. If you make it and I don't, make damn sure my money and network time with Ari and Martel gets to my kids. Travis nodded. I will. Silence fell. You're a shit engineer, old man, he said. Ben barked a laugh. You won't ever find one better. No, Travis agreed solemnly. Gruber finally met his captain's gaze. Lou saw a lot of history and love on both faces, but they simply nodded at each other. Then Gruber turned and left. Her first officer stepped to her side. Commander. His face was warm, smiling down at her. She nodded back, feeling comfortable meeting his gaze, feeling a lifetime of shared danger that the universe had seen fit to jam into the space of days. She almost laughed again, remembering how staunchly Villanueva had petitioned Dwyer to remove her, even as late as the start of this very long shift. I'd like to suit up and cross back to 6 to lead our defense. If we lose the reactors, there won't be anything left to power the Betty's engines when Gruber gets the relay working again. She offered her hand. Keep her safe for me first. Arnel took her hand, shook once, and turned to go. He hesitated and turned back, offering Lou his best version of a military salute. She returned it with a smile. He snapped it off and crossed without another word to Taggart. They shook too, with Arnel nodding over his shoulder to her and Beecham. She didn't hear his quiet words, but read the meaning clear enough when Taggart fiercely answered, Count on it. Footsteps echoed down the ramp and Lou walked to Travis's side. Where do you want me, Captain? Sam, he murmured, his eyes on the empty ramp. He breathed deep, and the emotion disappeared from his face, replaced with determination. We're headed for the bridge. Most of Daisy and everything else that runs the Betty funnels through the bridge. We're going to hold it, or die trying, he summed up, as lightly as describing the strategy for a beach volleyball game. So I think you could call me Sam. She looked over at Beecham. Taggart stood above him, arms behind his back, eyes on the ramp. His face suddenly bore a startling resemblance to a pit bull. I'm not really dressed to repel a boarding party. Travis's smile would make a shark turn tail and run. Where are my manners? Have I forgotten to show you Betty's armory? It's on the way to the bridge. She matched his smile. In that case, you're on, Sam.
Farlost. Music by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Learn more at servingworlds.com.
Hi, John Miro here. Farlost is brought to you by my backers at Patreon. Patronage starts at $1 a month, or about 25 cents a cliffhanger. Patreon.com. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your support.